Chelsea didn't stop crying. Not really. She got quieter after a while, but that wasn't really the same thing. The screaming, the sobs turned into little broken noises she tried to swallow before they escaped. Every few steps, she looked over her shoulder like she expected her mother to climb back up and tell us everything was okay. I didn't know what to say to her. What was I supposed to say? Your mom made the right choice. She died so you could live. Those things might have been true, but truth doesn't mean shit when you've just watched your mother disappear over the edge of a building. So I kept hold of Chelsea's hand and pulled her toward the hospital. The helicopter circled St. Mary's again. Close now. Close enough that the rotor wash kicked loose paper into the air and sent it spinning between the buildings. We were maybe 3 rooftops away. Distance had become difficult to judge. Everything looked closer from above until you tried to reach it. The dead were inside the buildings now. We could hear them moving beneath us. Doors banging open. Furniture scraping. Glass breaking. Floor by floor as they worked their way upward. They weren't smart, not exactly, but they followed sound, and we had made plenty of it. Chelsea stumbled behind me. "I can't," she said. "You can." "My legs hurt." "Mine too." "I want my mom." I didn't answer that one. The next building connected through a maintenance corridor that ran between the upper floors. It was basically a glass hallway suspended above the street. Half the windows were already broken. The entire thing creaked when we stepped inside. I kept Chelsea close to the inner wall and tried not to look down. Below us, the street moved. That is the only way I can describe it. The dead were packed so tightly between the cars that they didn't look like separate bodies anymore. They looked like one enormous thing rolling through the city. Heads, arms, open mouths, a current of ruined people. Something hit the hallway door behind us. A pale hand slapped against the small window. Chelsea saw it and screamed, "Run." We made it across just as the door burst inward. The first one came through too fast and went straight out the side of the broken corridor. It didn't even try to stop itself. It fell into the street below and vanished into the crowd. The others kept coming. I shoved Chelsea through the door at the opposite end and slammed it shut behind us. There was no lock, so I grabbed a metal cart from beside the wall and wedged it beneath the handle. The door shook. The cart rolled an inch. Then another. "Go," I said. Chelsea stood there staring at me. "Go!" She ran, and I followed her into the dark hallway. No emergency lights, no windows, just a narrow strip of moonlight coming through an open doorway at the far end. The hospital roof access was supposed to be somewhere above us. I could hear the helicopter. The sound vibrated through the ceiling. We were close. So fucking close. Chelsea reached the stairwell door first. Locked. Of course it was. She yanked the handle again and again. Behind us, metal screeched across the floor. The cart had moved. I looked around for another exit. There was a door to my left, partly open. Dark inside. I pushed through, feeling along the wall for anything useful. A chair, a desk, a cabinet. My hand closed around something long and metal. An IV pole. Not exactly a weapon, but I was past the point of being picky. Something moved behind me. I turned and a face came out of the darkness. A man wearing scrubs. At least I think it was a man. His lower jaw hung sideways, attached by a few strips of skin, and one eye had collapsed inward. He hit me before I could swing. We crashed into the desk. I drove the bottom of the IV pole into his chest and shoved him backward. He came again. I swung. The metal hook caught him across the face and sent him into the wall. He slid down behind the desk. I didn't wait to see whether he got back up. I grabbed a fire extinguisher from the hallway and slammed it into the stairwell handle until it broke. Chelsea pulled the door open and we climbed. 1 flight, 2. The roof door was at the top. Sunlight came through the small window. No, not sunlight. The city burning. Orange light covered everything. I pushed the door open and the helicopter was right there. It sat near the center of the roof with its side door open. People were already packed inside, and a medic stood near the opening, waving us forward. "Hurry!" Chelsea ran toward them. I followed, holding the broken IV pole, because apparently some part of my brain thought it still might be useful. The helicopter blades threw dust and loose gravel into our faces. The medic reached down and pulled Chelsea inside. I grabbed the frame and started to climb in after, but he put one hand against my chest. "Stop." I stared at him. "What?" "We're full." I looked inside. Every seat was taken. People sat on the floor. One man had a child across his lap and another wedged between his legs. A woman was pressed near the rear with blood soaking through a bandage on her head. Chelsea reached toward me. "No, he's coming." The medic looked past me. 30 minutes, he repeated. "Stay on the roof. Keep the door blocked." Chelsea tried to climb back out. I stepped away before she could. "No." Her face twisted. "You're coming." "I'll be on the next one." You promised. I know. You promised my mom. That one landed harder than it should have. I stepped closer and took her hand. I promised I'd get you out. Her fingers squeezed mine. You're not lying? I smiled, or tried to. I'm terrible at lying. That wasn't true, but she needed something. The medic pulled her back as the pilot increased power. Chelsea kept staring at me through the open door. I raised my hand. She raised hers. Then the helicopter lifted away from the roof. The wind hit me so hard I had to turn my face. By the time I looked up again, it was already moving across the city, getting smaller, carrying Chelsea somewhere that still had walls, soldiers, food, people who might know what to say to a child that lost everything in one night. I stood there until I couldn't see it anymore. Then I sat down. Not necessarily because I wanted to. My legs simply stopped cooperating. I leaned against a concrete barrier near the edge of the roof and listened to the dead hammering against the stairwell door. They would get through eventually. 30 minutes, suddenly, sounded like a very long time. I pulled my jacket tighter around myself, and that's when I noticed something. Blood. A thin line running across the back of my hand. It disappeared beneath my sleeve. For a second, I thought it had belonged to somebody else. There had been so much blood that night. On the walls, on the roads, on my shoes. I pushed the sleeve up. There was a bite just above my wrist. 2 rows of broken skin. Deep, dark blood had soaked through the inside of the jacket. I hadn't felt him bite me. Not really. Pressure. That's all it was. The skin around the wound had already gone pale. Thin, black veins had started crawling toward my elbow. I pressed my thumb into the bite. No pain. No, I whispered. The word came out stupidly, small, as if saying it quietly might make the wound disappear. I checked the roof for anything I could use. A blade, an axe, something sharp enough to take the arm off before whatever this was moved further. But it was already at my bicep. Too fast. Way too fast. I could hear my heartbeat, slow, heavy. Each beat pushed the black lines higher. The roof door bent outward. A hand appeared through the gap. I moved away from it, dragging myself across the gravel. That was when I saw the folder. It had blown against the base of a ventilation unit. Plain brown paper. A red confidential strip across the top. I crawled over and picked it up. Most of the documents inside were loose. Charts, patient reports, photographs. The first page had a logo in the corner. one of those biohazards. Underneath it were the words, Project Revival. The name would have been ridiculous any other day. Now it made my stomach sink. There were dates going back almost 8 years. Trials, cadaver preservation, neural simulation, cellular reactivation after clinical death. I read the same paragraph 3 times because my mind refused to understand it. The company had been contracted to develop a treatment capable of restoring brain function after oxygen deprivation. Stroke victims, cardiac arrest patients, people declared dead for several minutes and brought back with permanent damage. That was how it started, or at least that's what the report claimed. Then came animal testing, then human trials, then something called Phase Lazarus. A photograph slipped from between the pages. A hospital room. A man strapped to a bed. His skin was gray. His chest had been open and sewn shut. Someone had written a time beneath the photograph. Subject resumed movement 12 hours after confirmed death. The next page was an internal warning. Reactivated subjects displayed uncontrollable aggression, loss of language, memory, extreme response to sound and movement, and hunger. That word had been underlined 3 times. Another page listed transport locations, hospitals, morgues, research facilities. St. Mary's Medical Center was at the top. This roof, this building. The dead hadn't wandered here by accident. This was where it began, or one of the places it began. The reports mentioned shipments across the country, maybe outside it. I looked at the helicopter disappearing beneath the smoke, then at the city beneath me. The sun was beginning to rise behind Hardwick. Its light spread across streets clogged with the dead. Tens of thousands of them. They filled every intersection I could see. They poured from buildings. They climbed over cars. Some wandered aimlessly. Others moved with purpose whenever a scream or an engine broke through the noise. Walking flesh eaters. That was what we had been reduced to. Not all of us. Not yet. But enough. I pulled the notebook from my backpack, the one I had been writing in. I opened to the last empty page and copied the symbol from the folder. I'm leaving a sketch in the notebook just in case somebody finds it. Just in case Chelsea asks whether I kept my promise. I did. I got her there, and that has to count for something. My hands are shaking now. Not from fear. I don't think I'm afraid anymore. I can't feel my fingers. I can barely feel my face. I'm standing at the edge, and It's a long way down. Long enough that there won't be anything left of me to get back up. That's the hope. Anyway, I keep looking at the folder, at the logo, at the ruined city beneath me. And there's only one thought running through my mind. What the fuck is ViraClean Solutions?